Hey guys, Dr. Bodle here, and today we're going to be answering the question for you of whether or not you need to be following AIP or an autoimmune paleo diet if you have Hashimoto's. Now it's a question I get all the time, and hopefully the information in today's video will not only help you to determine whether AIP is a good option for you or not, but it will also help you to make better decisions when it comes to nutritional changes in general. And of course, if you like learning about natural strategies to support your Hashimoto's and hypothyroid symptoms, please remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for new videos every Thursday. Now, something that I always try to stress to my patients and also try to stress in my online content is that different approaches are going to work for different people. And we need to get away from this idea that once we're labeled with a specific condition or symptom, that there's going to be some sort of magic formula that fits to that label that we all need to follow. The example that I always like to use to illustrate this is the symptom of fatigue. You could take 10 different people, all of whom are experiencing fatigue, and there could be 10 different reasons for why they have fatigue. One person could have thyroid problems. Another person could be anemic. Maybe someone isn't getting good sleep at night. But as you can see, even though they have the same symptom, the mechanism or the cause behind that symptom is different. And that's why it wouldn't make sense to apply the same treatment or therapy to all these different people. And by using that same line of reasoning, we can apply that to a more complex problem like Hashimoto's. As many of us know, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition, and when it comes to managing these types of diseases, we want to make sure that we're understanding what is triggering or irritating our immune system, how can we support our immune system to function more normally, and how can we address some of the residual impacts or damage that the immune system has caused to our body at large. And so as we assess the immune triggers for an individual, for some people, diet is going to be the biggest thing that we can change. But that's not going to be the case for everyone. Just as a quick aside, and hopefully this is more helpful than it is confusing, but I've had patients before who have chronic bloating and digestive symptoms, not because of what they're eating, but because of the stress in their life. I've also had patients with digestive symptoms that occur due to changes in blood sugar and blood sugar crashes. So even though it sounds a little weird, it's true, and again, this illustrates the point that sometimes, even though we're having gut symptoms, it's not always related to our nutrition. However, if we do decide that diet is that big piece that we need to focus on, then our next question becomes, how rigid or strict do we need to be? Of course, this leads many people to think that, well, if I have an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's, then I should probably follow the diet with autoimmune in the name. Heck, even Dr. Brad's free download is centered around these autoimmune diet principles. So it makes sense that I should match my condition to the diet that is named for it. And as we're about to find out, sometimes that is the right thing to do, but not always. And again, it requires us to look at the bigger picture of your health rather than just the label that you've been given. For those of you who don't know, AIP is a whole foods, minimally processed diet that focuses on meat, fish, vegetables, fruits, and spices with the goal of removing more common food allergens like grains, dairy, and soy, while also removing some of the less common food allergens and other compounds that might be challenging for a sensitive system to process. This includes avoiding things like legumes, nuts and seeds, and also eggs. Now, just because all of these foods are removed as part of the AIP approach doesn't mean that you are specifically sensitive to them. Instead, the goal of AIP is to manage the load or stress on your immune system. That way it can function more normally, in addition to having a healthier gut response and less inflammation in general. By doing so, and ideally having less immune system dysfunction, we will hopefully see less antibody activity, less damage to our thyroid, and therefore an improvement in our symptoms. I like to use AIP in situations where an individual patient is clearly reacting to 10 or more foods, or maybe they're not having overt reactions to particular foods, but in general, most foods seem to cause some sort of digestive symptoms, or if they've already made digestive changes and they haven't seen much results. And you'll notice there a concept that we've discussed before, which is viewing your nutrition as a spectrum of changes, where we can dial up or down the intensity based on what we need. So if we've made some changes and we're not seeing results, well, then we might want to push things a little bit further. With that said, at the same time, despite its name, AIP isn't always going to be a good fit for everyone with Hashimoto's, and there's a few things that you'll want to look out for. The first thing is AIP leading to low fuel or caloric intake throughout our day. Now, if our diet is generally more processed, then it's usually pretty easy to have some sort of food that is small in size but delivers a high amount of calories. And when we switch to a more whole food-based diet, that equation tends to be flipped on its head. Suddenly it can feel like we're eating huge volumes of food or massive portions, but in comparison, we're not getting anywhere near the same amount of calories as we were before on the more processed diet. When it comes to Hashimoto's, we have to fuel our healing. And if we don't have enough gas in the tank, so to speak, then it can actually exacerbate some of the symptoms that we might be dealing with, including things like fatigue, poor endurance, brain fog, and problems with our sleep. So if you are someone who's prone to low fuel or low blood sugar, AIP might not be a great fit for you, or if you are going to use it, you need to make sure that you're very diligent about where you're getting your calories. The other thing that can be a challenge from a physiological standpoint also ties into that change in volume of food. If we're no longer getting a concentrated amount of calories from refined carbohydrates or refined fats, and we know that we need to up our food volume to compensate for that, then sometimes for people with a sensitive digestive system, even though we've removed some of those more inflammatory foods, it can still struggle to break down the larger amount of whole foods that it's now being provided. Now, this can manifest in a few different ways. Some people struggle to break down protein because they don't have the proper acidic environment in their stomach. Other people can struggle with fat because they don't have good gallbladder activity, or maybe they had their gallbladder removed. Lastly, carbohydrates can pose their own problem, either due to changes in pancreatic function or due to changes in our gut microbiome, which can have some interesting and varied reactions to different types of fiber. Again, AIP still can be an option for you, but I would recommend taking a look at your meal composition and seeing if there's any correlation to where your calories are coming from and some of the symptoms that you're experiencing. You may need to titrate up or down your fats, proteins, or carbs based on your response, see what helps you feel your best, and minimizes those post-meal symptoms. And finally, the last situation where AIP might not be a good fit doesn't have anything to do with our body or our physiology. Instead, it has to do with how we feel about it. Obviously, you guys know how important I think nutrition is, but it doesn't do us any good if we're not confident in the changes that we're making, or if the stress that goes along with making those changes is so great that it's really disrupting everything else that we're trying to do. So if it does feel overwhelming, scary, or just too restrictive, don't worry about it. Make the changes that you can make and go from there. You're not a failure by not doing AIP. And if it is something that just didn't feel right to you in the beginning, then you weren't going to be successful with it anyways, and that doesn't help us much at all. But if you do plan on using AIP, whether you think it's restrictive or not, you'll still want to work to make it enjoyable for yourself. It's easier to follow a nutritional plan when we are engaged with it. And if we can make our food choices dynamic, diversified, and fun and interesting, then the changes to our health will come a lot easier and the overall process will be more rewarding. It's common for people in the beginning to feel like they're limited because there's such a variety of options in the processed food world. But just because we're no longer eating 6 different versions of Skittles doesn't mean that we can't create a variety of options with our whole food choices. And although some people do better utilizing AIP for months or years, and others are going to use it as a short-term reset, at the end of the day, our biggest goal is that you're feeling better. And we always want to adjust and finesse our diet to match you and your needs rather than simply following some arbitrary structure that's been posted on the internet. So to wrap up today's discussion, AIP can be a powerful tool, and it's one that I like to use in practice. However, don't feel like it's the only path to success. But of course, I'm always interested to hear your thoughts, so leave me a comment down below. What do you think of AIP? How have you used it in the past? And what sort of changes have you noticed? If you like the video but know that you need more help and are interested in working with me one-on-one, either in person or virtually, then remember you can always start that process by sending an email to my staff at contact@seattlethyroidhelp.com. Once we receive your information, we'll reach out and see if you qualify for a free consultation. If you're going to do some more independent learning, that's okay too, especially if you're interested in nutrition. I have a lot of videos on that topic, or you can grab either one of my free downloads, which are listed in the description box. But that is it for this week. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video and learned a lot. I love you guys, and I just always want to make sure that you're doing your best. If you did like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and if you're looking for more information, you can always follow me on Instagram or Facebook. But my name is Dr. Bodle. I hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one.